Chapter 3, Juvenile Block. When living in your truth, you don't see what others do. I was just living my life and keeping enemies at bay. Your reputation is built on what others may have saw, heard, overheard, and speculated on. I didn't know what others heard. As long as it wasn't disrespectful towards me and my homies, I didn't refute it. I was sent to a holding cell at DC jail but separated because of my age. After a few hours of fingerprints and mug shots, I was stripped naked, forced to take a quick shower, and then sprayed for lice. DC jail is for adults, so I was taken to a cell block with around 18 cells separated exclusively for juveniles charged as adults. I was given a prison number that would stick with me for the rest of my life, 235116, meaning I was the 235,116th prisoner to come through the DC jail system since 1875, the day another jail was opened on 19th and B Street Southeast. This one was built in 1976 on 19th and D Street Southeast. DC was averaging over 15,000 new arrests every year. In order for me to be prosecuted as an adult, the prosecutor had to file a motion requesting transfer of a child for criminal prosecution. I also had to meet a certain criteria: the initial act of prior acts of violence, murder, attempted murder, assault with intent to kill, multiple armed robberies, etc. As I got on the juvenile block, I learned that the vast majority of the kids here had armed robbery or murder charges. Some had double and triple murders. Some were caught up in turf battles. Some were hitmen and some were just defending themselves. But we were all facing long time behind bars. I was facing 30 years. Most of the kids that went through the juvenile block were considered the creme de la creme of gunmen and young ballers in the city. We all knew each other or knew of each other. We knew who killed who and sometimes why that person was killed. We knew some of the same girls and frequented some of the same spots. So we would stay up all night talking about how much money we're going to make if we get out. Which girls we're going to fuck if we get out. Which cars we're going to buy if we get out. And which guns was our favorites. With our closest friends, we would even plot to kill their witnesses if we get out. One of the kids on the block name was Chester. He's from the south side. He kept his bed made, cell clean, floor shiny, and his shoes wrapped up in plastic bags. His cell was impeccable. This was extremely strange for a teenager. I thought he may have grew up on a military base or had strict military parents. But he told me his father, cousins, and uncles had all served a lot of time, and he grew up watching and listening to them. He was 16 years old and already mentally prepared to do 30 years. He was demonstrating institutionalization before even reaching the institution. It was also a lot of young men from New York on the juvenile block. The fratricide had begun between New York and DC hustlers, and killings were occurring daily, on both sides. Most of the ones on the juvenile block weren't juveniles though. DC didn't know their real identity, so they were able to lie about their age, telling the authorities that they were juveniles. They were trying to get to Oak Hill or Seton so they could escape, but ended up in DC jail being charged as an adult. Some of them were really in their mid and late 20s. They all had bodies. One of them was riding in his Jeep Cherokee Limited with the system blasting. The back seats were removed so the whole back of the truck could be loaded with subwoofers and amps. It had the bright yellow and blue New York tags on it. He put up at a stop sign and some guys yelled out to him, "Hey Slim, turn that bam ass shit down." He laughed at him and turned it up some more.
You in the danger zone. I figured you would. Now leave me alone.
The music was so loud that it rattled windows 3 blocks away. While he sat in the truck jamming to the hard bass from EPMD and rolling a blunt simultaneously, he felt a stinging sensation in his arm, but he kept rolling. Then he felt a shoulder muscle spasm. He kept rolling. Then he felt his jawbone come loose and thought someone had reached into the vehicle and punched him in the face. But when he looked up, it was a barrel of a 9mm aiming at his head and hot balls were spitting directly towards him. The music was so loud that he didn't hear a shot. On the outside, the gunshots were a part of the rhythm. Nobody heard a thing. By the time he slammed on the gas, launching the vehicle into an intersection at rush hour and slamming into the side of a metro bus, he had already been hit 6 times. He had a warrant for a body in Northeast and 2 attempted murders in Brooklyn. So as soon as the hospital discharged him, he was brought to DC jail. He was supposed to be kept in an infirmary for treatment, but because of liability issues, they had no holding cells for juveniles, so they brought him onto the juvenile block. He could barely walk and was still wearing bloody gauze patches all over his body and head. We changed his bloody sheets and bandages every day until he was able to walk on his own. For everyone, on our 18th birthday, we would be sent upstairs with the adults I was just turning 17 years old.